Timelines. A timeline is a line that provides a visual summary that captures the data available at different points in time. Here, subscripts beneath the T tell us the points that we are in on the timeline. T0 represents the present time, that is, now. T1 represents the end of the first year and the beginning of the second year. T2 represents the end of the second year and the beginning of the third year. T3 represents the end of the third year and the beginning of the fourth year. T4 represents the end of the fourth year and the beginning of the fifth year. While representing the given data on timelines, it is important to understand the difference between period of time and a point in time. The portion of timeline between points T0 and T1 represents the period of 1 year. When we say after 3 years, we count the period from T0 to T1, then from T1 to T2, and from T2 to T3. Timelines are a very useful tool when there are a lot of transactions happening at different points in time. Consider a case where the method of calculating interest changes during the course of investment. Malepe invests 4,500 Rand in a savings account, and the money is invested for a period of 4 years. For the first 2 years, the investment grows at a simple interest of 4% per annum, and then at a rate of 3% per annum, compounded monthly for the rest of the period. Using a timeline helps us determine the time period N, when the balance of the savings account experienced simple growth and compound growth. Consider another case where timelines are immensely useful. Trevor opens an investment account by depositing 100,000 Rand for a period of 5 years at an interest rate of 10% per annum, compounded half yearly for the first 2 years, and then 12.5% per annum compounded quarterly for the rest of the period. A deposit of 7,000 Rand is made into the account after the first year, and then a deposit of 3,000 Rand is made 4 years after the initial investment. Calculate the value of the investment at the end of 5 years. As there are multiple deposits happening at different points in time and the interest rate is also changing, let us use a timeline to help us summarize the data. Since the period of investment is 5 years, our timeline will start with T0 and end with T5. Now, let us show the amounts on the timeline. We know that the initial investment made was 100,000 Rand, so that amount is written below T0. A deposit of 7,000 Rand is made into the account after the first year. The term after the first year means at the end of the first year. Let us look at our timeline. The portion of timeline from T0 to T1 is the period of 1 year. T1 denotes the end of the first year. So we write 7,000 Rand just below T1. We read the problem further, and then a deposit of 3,000 Rand is made 4 years after the initial investment. Initial investment was made at T0. Let us count 4 years from T0. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, at T4, Trevor makes a deposit of 3,000 Rand. We denote the deposits with A plus sign. Since money can be used productively, its value is different depending on when it is received or paid. For example, to find the total sum of money that stayed invested in the account, we cannot simply add 7,000 and 3,000 to the investment. That is because the value of money is different at different points in time. The only way to move along the timeline is by adding the interest earned on the sum of money. Hence, we need to note the interest rates on the timeline for the different time periods. The interest rate is 10% per annum, compounded half yearly for the first 2 years, and then 12.5% per annum, compounded quarterly for the rest of the period. So, we mark the portion of the first 2 years from T0 to T2 and write 10% per annum compounded half yearly. We similarly mark the rest of the period and write down the new interest rate, that is 12.5% per annum compounded quarterly. We can look at one more example where timelines can be very useful. Here the nature of the transaction changes. Purti invests 20,000 Rand in a flexi deposit scheme that offers interest at 6% per annum compounded monthly for the first 30 months, and thereafter the interest rate is reduced to 4% per annum, compounded quarterly. 3 years after the initial investment, Purti withdraws 5,000 Rand from the account. Purti now wishes to close the account. 5 years after the initial investment. Can you estimate the closing balance of the account? Let us draw a timeline depicting these transactions. The period of investment is 5 years, so the timeline will start with T0 and end with T5. Now, let us show the amounts on the timeline. We know that the initial investment made was 20,000 Rand, so that amount is written below T0. 3 years after the initial investment, Phuthi withdraws 5,000 Rand. Let us look at our timeline. Initial investment was made at T0. Let us count 3 years from T0. 1, 2, 3. So, at T3, he withdraws 5,000 Rand. We denote the withdrawal using a negative sign. Also, note that the interest rate changes after 30 months. So how do we show the months in this timeline, as each point only denotes year? We simply convert the number of months into years. Since there are 12 months in a year, we simply divide 30 by 12. Number of years equals 30 over 12 equals 2,5 years. Remember that T3 denotes the end of the third year, and T2 denotes the end of the second year. So the period between T2 and T3 is 12 months. T2,5 is 6 months after the end of the second year, or 6 months before the end of the third year, so it lies between T2 and T3. We note down the interest rates for the first 30 months and the rest of the period. We will solve some of these examples in the subsequent sections.
Need more help? Subscribe to our channel. Can't wait that long? Ask Masky to help you and let the math finally start mathing.